Tyler is a guy who knows how to train. He lives in Nashville, Tennessee, and he's in his prime at 24 years old. He's been training for almost 2 years, 5 times a week, without missing a single day. In the first 4 months, Tyler visibly grew. People noticed. He noticed too. His confidence went up right alongside the weight on the bar. But for the past 6 months, the mirror simply stopped changing. He's still doing cardio, still training hard, same exercises, same sets, same weights, the same weights. And that's exactly where the problem is. Tyler thinks he's progressing because he's training, but training doesn't mean he's actually progressing. And the difference between those two things is the concept that separates people who grow from people who stay stuck forever. Before I continue Tyler's story, I need to ask you something. What do you think progressive overload is? If the answer is add weight to the bar, you're right. But you're right in the wrong way, because most people understand what progressive overload is. Very few understand what it actually represents, and that difference explains why Tyler, and probably you at some point, hits a wall out of nowhere and has no idea why. Here's what the top hypertrophy researchers in the world say about this. Progressive overload is not what builds muscle. It's the scoreboard that shows muscle was built. Let me say that again because it matters. Muscle grows when you apply enough tension, recover, and your body adapts above its previous level. Progressive overload is the evidence that cycle happened. Training plus recovery builds the muscle. Progressive overload just proves it worked. Right now, back to Tyler. In the first 4 months, Tyler grew because his body had never been exposed to that stimulus before. Every workout was a new challenge. Every session demanded adaptation. The body had to build more muscle tissue just to handle what was being asked of it, so it built. But the human body is extremely efficient. It doesn't build more muscle than it needs, and when it finally adapts to the stimulus, when the workout stops being a challenge, it stops growing. In other words, you have to keep progressing, my friend. Tyler had been doing the same workout for 6 months. His body had fully adapted. The squat at 185 pounds that was hard in month 3 was now almost easy, but Tyler kept doing 185, and his body had zero reason to build more muscle. It was already strong enough for that. Here's what actually happened to Tyler. Studies show muscle can grow up to 14% in the first 2 to 3 months of training for beginners, the famous newbie gains. I've already talked about it. In the video about Cody's transformation, which I'll leave a card for you to watch at the end of this video, but that same study showed something most people don't know. The growth you see in the mirror in the first few weeks, a lot of it isn't real muscle, it's swelling. It's fluid that accumulates as a response to the muscle damage from training. Real muscle, the tissue that stays, only starts showing up in a meaningful way around week 10. So what Tyler saw in the first 4 months was a combination of real muscle and neural adaptation. The nervous system learning to use the muscle that already existed, plus some swelling in the early weeks. And when the neural adaptations ran their course and the swelling went down and the body adapted to the stimulus, real growth depended on one thing only: giving the body a new reason to grow, which is exactly what Tyler stopped doing. Now let me show you something that might change what you think you know about training. Progressive overload is not just adding weight. It's any increase in stimulus that challenges the muscle beyond what it has already adapted to, and there are at least 7 ways to do that. More weight on the bar, the most obvious. More reps with the same weight, just as valid as the first. More sets per muscle per week. Studies show each additional set produces on average 0.37% more muscle growth within the responsive range. Higher frequency, training the same muscle twice a week, produces more growth than once a week when total volume is equal. Greater range of motion, especially in the lengthened position. Muscle trained at its maximum, length grows more. Better execution with the same weight, more activation of the target muscle with the same load. Tyler was using only one of those 7 tools, and when that one stalled, he didn't know he had 6 others. If this video is making sense to you, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, my friend. These videos take a long time to make for you all. Thank you, because what comes next is the mistake Tyler was making inside progressive overload, and that most people make without realizing it. Tyler's mistake wasn't failing to add weight. It was adding weight the wrong way. When he could do 12 reps on an exercise, he'd add 10 pounds the following week, all at once. And then he couldn't do 12 reps anymore, sometimes barely 8. So he'd stay at that weight until he could hit 12 again, add 10 pounds, drop back to 8, a cycle that never actually evolved. The problem has a name. It's called ego lifting. I know, we're all potential ego lifters, adding too much weight too fast, sacrificing execution and range of motion just to feel like you're progressing. Researchers identified this as the #1 progression mistake. You make the scoreboard lie. You add weight to the bar so it looks like progress happened, but the muscle didn't receive more stimulus, only your ego got more satisfaction. Real progression is small and consistent, 2.5 to 5 pounds on the big lifts, 1 more rep per week, 1 extra set per month. Small, consistent. For years, that's exactly how muscle responds, in tiny increments that accumulate into transformations that look impossible from the outside. Tyler understood this on a Monday night in Nash Vegas, and while he heard the neighbor's house playing country music, he was staring at his training spreadsheet, the same spreadsheet he'd been using for 6 months, and realized the numbers hadn't changed. Same weights, same reps, same training for 6 months, simply because he wasn't progressing the load, because he had stopped giving his body a reason to grow. The following week, Tyler changed one thing. He started adding 2.5 pounds every workout on the main lifts, and 1 more rep on the sets where the weight wasn't going up. It didn't seem like much, but 12 weeks later, the numbers on the spreadsheet were completely different from 6 months before, and the mirror started changing again. Tyler hadn't discovered a new secret. He had understood the most fundamental concept of muscle growth that had been right in front of him the whole time and that nobody had bothered to explain properly. So what do you need to understand about progressive overload? Straight to the point. #1, progressive overload is not what builds muscle. It's the proof that muscle was built. Training plus recovery plus adaptation is what builds it. Overload is the scoreboard. #2, there are at least 7 ways to progress: weight, reps, sets, frequency, range of motion, density, and execution. When one stalls, use another. #3, the ideal progression is small and consistent. 2.5 to 5 pounds on compounds, 1 more rep, 1 extra set, small, every workout for years. #4, muscle stops growing when it stops being challenged, not when you stop showing up. You can show up every single day and grow nothing if the stimulus is always the same. #5, realistic gains. In the first year, a man can gain between 20 and 25 pounds of muscle under near optimal conditions. In the second year, that number drops by half. In the third half again, growth gets slower, but only if you keep giving your body a reason to grow. Tyler spent 6 months showing up without progressing. You don't have to make the same mistake, and remember, eat right, hit your protein, drink your water, and sleep well. Progressive overload is one piece of the puzzle, but it's a very important piece. I'm Tani, and if this video made sense to you, you know what to do. Subscribe to the channel. Thanks.